Her name popped up on my phone at 11:14 p.m., not as a text, but as a location update. Cassandra's iPhone entered, Silverhall Lofts, penthouse level. I stared at it for a full minute, heart pounding so hard I could hear the blood in my ears. That wasn't her gym. That wasn't her friend's place. That sure as hell wasn't our home. No one told me to turn on location tracking. She had set it up months ago when she lost her phone at a concert and needed mine to help find it. I forgot to turn it off. She never did. And now I was staring at her, sitting motionless at an address I recognized only because her boss Blaine once bragged about living there during a work dinner. I'd smiled through that entire night, sipping overpriced water while he told stories about champagne tastings and team-building retreats in Aspen. Cassandra laughed at every one of his jokes, even the ones that weren't funny. And now she was there. I didn't text her. I didn't call. I waited. I watched the for 3 hours. It didn't move. At 2:47 a.m., I opened our bedroom closet and took down the empty duffel bag from the top shelf. I didn't pack anything. I just held it, staring into it like it could somehow explain why the woman I married was inside another man's high-rise in a dress I hadn't seen before, ignoring every message I'd sent all day. I had begged her not to go earlier that evening. Literally begged. Voice cracking, hands shaking. She said it was just a team event and not a big deal, and why are you acting like this? Then she left. I made the mistake of checking my phone again. Still at Silverhall. Still no texts. Still no, I'll be late. Or it ran long. Or relax. Just silence. 3 days ago, we were arguing about whether to repaint the kitchen. Now I was watching a blinking GPS that confirmed every fear I tried to swallow for months. The worst part? She didn't come home the next day. Or the day after that. Or the day after that. 3 full days. Of nothing. No messages. No calls. No keys turning in the lock. Not even a toothbrush moved. Just me, the blinking dot, and the sound of a man losing everything in complete, soul-splitting silence. The first full day without her felt like someone had pressed pause on the entire world, except for me. Her keys weren't on the hook. Her charger was missing. Her drawer was half open like she left in a rush. But everything else was untouched. The coffee mug she used that morning was still in the sink with lipstick on the rim. Her sweater was draped over the back of the chair. It was as if she had evaporated into thin air, intentionally. I tried calling again. Voicemail. I texted, "Are you okay?" Nothing. Then, "Where are you?" Still nothing. Then I deleted that one and rewrote, "I'm worried." I hated how it sounded. Weak. Desperate. But I sent it anyway. I walked the apartment like a ghost, retracing the steps she took the night she left. I stood in front of the mirror where she fixed her hair before slipping into heels that she only wore to impress. She had told me it was just a casual thing, but I remember her checking herself from every angle like she was preparing for something more than casual. I sat on the edge of the bed that night and watched her side stay untouched, the sheets tucked, the pillows smooth. No movement. Just that haunting absence. Her scent still clung to the fabric. I hated myself for breathing it in. The next morning, I called her sister, the one she barely talked to. I asked if she'd heard anything. She hadn't. I asked if this seemed normal. She paused before answering. That pause was a sledgehammer. Then I tried her office. The front desk said, "Oh, I believe she took personal time. She mentioned needing space." Space? From what? Me? From our life? I hadn't even raised my voice the night she left. I didn't accuse. I didn't scream. I begged, like a pathetic child. I asked her to skip a party. That was it. And in exchange, I got silence thick enough to drown in. I sat on the couch scrolling every possible social media account she had. No posts. No stories. Her Instagram went dark. Even her LinkedIn status vanished. It was like she'd scrubbed herself clean of her entire life. Or worse, she was still somewhere in it, just choosing to pretend I didn't exist. And then something broke inside me. I went back to the tracking app. That curse that was still there. Still at Silverhall Lofts. Penthouse level. She hadn't moved. Not for 36 hours. I stared at that screen until my eyes ached, until the battery drained, until I hated myself for not doing something. So I got dressed. I told myself I wasn't going there to confront her. I told myself I just wanted to see she was alive. But the truth is, I wanted to catch her. I wanted her to see the look on my face when she opened the door. I wanted to see if she flinched, if she lied, if she tried to smile her way out of it. But I never got that far. Because when I pulled up outside the building, the doorman told me, "Sorry, sir. You're not on the guest list." I gave him her name. He looked me over, hesitated, and then he said, "I remember her. She came in with Mr. Whitlow 2 nights ago. She's still listed under his unit." Her boss. I thanked him. I smiled. Then I got in my car, drove 3 blocks away, parked near a liquor store, and sat in silence for 6 more hours, waiting to see if she'd leave. She didn't. The dot never moved. It was almost 3 a.m. on the 3rd night when the sound of the door unlocking nearly stopped my heart. I had dozed off on the couch with the TV on mute, a documentary flickering in silence. The keys rattled softly, the way they always did when she was trying not to wake me. Except this time, she wasn't late from dinner with friends or a work trip. She was returning from a place I hadn't been invited to, from 3 days of absolute, calculated silence. The door creaked open. I sat up, but didn't say a word. She walked in like a ghost wearing her own skin. Same green dress, wrinkled now, makeup barely clinging to her face. No purse, no apology, just a slow, quiet walk straight to the kitchen sink where she turned on the faucet and let it run for no reason at all. I waited. She didn't speak. She just stared into the stream of water, as if washing away a memory only she had access to. When I finally said her name, just her name, she didn't turn around. She only said, "I didn't think you'd be up." 3 days missing, and that was her opening line. I asked her where she'd been. She said she didn't want to get into it. I told her I needed to get into it. She sighed, shut the water off, and turned to me with those hollow, exhausted eyes that told me everything and nothing at once. "I just needed space," she said, rubbing her temples. "It's been overwhelming lately." Overwhelming? I asked if I had done something. If I said something. If I missed something. I asked why she left without saying a word. Why she ignored every message, every call. Why she left our life on pause while she vanished into someone else's. She didn't answer right away. She just looked at the floor like it had all the answers. Then she gave me the line I still hear when I try to sleep. "I thought you'd understand." That's what she said, after disappearing into the penthouse of her boss. After ignoring me for 70 hours. After letting me spiral into madness and anxiety and shame. She thought I'd understand. I asked her straight up, "Were you with Blaine?" Her eyes didn't even flinch. "I don't want to talk about Blaine," she whispered, and started walking toward the bedroom. I followed. I couldn't help it. I was unraveling. I was no longer trying to be the calm, reasonable husband. I was the pathetic one now, the one asking questions while already knowing the answers. "So you were?" I asked again. She stopped in the hallway, said nothing, and then said everything. "It's complicated, Tobin." That sentence lit something in me I didn't know I had. My chest burned. My throat dried out. I couldn't believe she used that word, complicated. Like we were 2 characters in some bad novel she didn't want to finish reading. She went into the bedroom and closed the door behind her. Didn't even lock it. Just shut it, slowly and softly. As if to say, "You don't get to enter here anymore." I stood in that hallway for so long. The floor began to ache under my feet. And then I sat down with my back against the wall, just outside our room, and stared at the closed door while my thoughts screamed through my skull. I didn't sleep. I didn't even cry. I just stared at that door like it was the last chapter of a book I wasn't allowed to read. And in that moment, I knew something had ended, even if she was still here. The next morning, I woke up to silence. Not the soft kind, the kind that makes your skin crawl. I didn't hear the shower. No hairdryer. No cabinet doors. She was gone. Again. And this time, she'd left no trace. But her phone hadn't. I don't know if it was curiosity, panic, or just self-destruction. Maybe all 3. But her phone was sitting face down on the kitchen counter, charging. She never left it behind. Never. It felt deliberate. Like a message I wasn't supposed to read but couldn't ignore. I stared at it for a long time. I even walked past it 3 times like I was trying to pretend I was better than this. But I wasn't. I picked it up and tapped the screen. No passcode. Of course not. We'd always agreed to keep each other's phones open. But now it felt like holding a live wire. I was terrified of what it would show me. At first, it looked normal. Boring, even. Group chats from her office. Memes from her friend Molly. Calendar reminders. Then I scrolled to the top bar and typed one word into the message search. Blaine. Nothing. Not a single thread. I didn't know if that made me relieved or more suspicious. So I tried another word. Silverhall. Again, nothing. But when I typed penthouse, the screen didn't stay empty. There it was. A message thread. Not under Blaine's name. It was just saved as N. One letter. That was all. It started months ago. And it wasn't just work talk. The earliest texts were harmless. Need you at 4:15, or bring those design samples. But slowly, they got stranger. Closer. At some point, they shifted into personal jokes. A few late-night one-liners. Then came photos. Blurry ones. A bottle of wine on a table. The corner of a bed. Her legs. His hand. Her caption. Too much wine. Don't judge. There was a selfie. She wasn't looking at the camera. It was one of those accidental catches where she was leaning back on a couch, smiling at someone just out of frame. Her eyes were half closed, and her hair was a mess. But she looked genuinely happy. I hadn't seen her look like that in months. I scrolled faster. My heart was pounding so loud I thought I might pass out. More photos. More late-night texts. One voice memo. I couldn't bring myself to hit play. And then a text that shattered everything I was still trying to protect. You make me feel like I matter again. It wasn't to me. It was to him. There was a second thread, hidden under a random contact name, Gary S. And I almost didn't click it. But when I did, it was more of the same. The same man. Same pattern. Late-night messages. Images of food, wine, music playlists. But these ones were darker. One text read, "You were right. I stopped seeing him a while ago. I just don't know how to make the exit clean." Exit. Clean. I dropped the phone. My legs gave out, and I ended up on the kitchen floor, trying to process what I'd just seen. She wasn't just cheating. She was planning an ending. An ending I hadn't even been invited to. I wasn't in control of anything. I was just the weight she hadn't figured out how to discard yet. When she came home that night, I didn't say a word. Neither did she. We sat on opposite ends of the couch watching a show neither of us was paying attention to. She had no idea what I had seen. She had no clue the glass was already cracking under her feet. And she sure as hell didn't know that I had forwarded all the messages to myself before I dropped her phone. I didn't plan on using them. Not yet. But I'd stopped begging. Now I was watching. I think she expected me to snap. Maybe even wanted me to. Slam a door. Scream. Call her names. Demand answers. But I didn't do any of that. I cooked dinner that night like everything was fine. Stirred a pot of sauce while she sat on her phone, not knowing it was now a window I had already crawled through. She laughed at something on her screen, probably some new message from N. I said nothing. I just listened to the boiling water and waited. The next morning, I left early, earlier than I needed to. I told her I had a work meeting. I didn't. I sat in my car, parked 2 blocks down, and waited to see if she left. She did. Around 9:10 a.m. She wasn't dressed for the office. She wasn't carrying her laptop. No packed lunch, no work bag. Just her, in a casual dress, a light coat, hair tied back, makeup subtle. The kind of look you wear when you're trying not to look like you're trying. I followed her. She didn't go to her office. She didn't even go downtown. She went to the west side, to a boutique hotel I'd never even heard of. She walked straight through the lobby and disappeared into the elevator. I waited 10 minutes, then went in and asked the clerk if there was a restaurant inside. He said, "No, sir, we just serve room service." I knew what that meant. I walked back out into the freezing morning air and sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel so hard my fingers turned white. The betrayal wasn't just emotional anymore. It was physical, tangible. She had a whole second life unfolding in front of me and didn't even bother hiding it anymore. But what made it worse, so much worse, was that I still loved her. Like an idiot. I still loved the person she used to be. I still remembered how she once looked at me like I was her entire world. And now I couldn't even get her to look me in the eye. That night, she came home smelling like citrus soap and hotel shampoo. I could barely eat. She asked why I was quiet. I said I had a migraine. She said, "You've been so sensitive lately." I just nodded and smiled. But something in me was changing. I started copying things, saving screenshots, recording voice memos of conversations. I even backed up her photos to a drive she didn't know existed. Not to use it against her, not yet, but because I knew the version of reality she was showing me wasn't real. And I couldn't take it anymore. I needed proof. For myself. Because some days, I'd catch her laughing at her phone while sitting 3 feet from me and wonder if I was going crazy. If this was how it always was, and I just hadn't seen it until now. But I wasn't crazy. The proof was piling up. And on the third night, something happened I didn't expect. She crawled into bed beside me, pulled the covers up, and whispered, "I missed you." I didn't respond. She placed her hand on my chest and said, "You've been distant." I looked at her, right in the eyes. And for the first time in our marriage, I didn't see her. I saw the person who had lied to me, over and over, without flinching. I didn't say anything. I just watched her fall asleep next to me, breathing peacefully, while I laid there awake, completely numb, staring at the ceiling, wondering how long it would take to become a stranger to someone who already felt like one. It happened completely by accident. I wasn't snooping this time. I wasn't going through her drawers or scanning her messages in the middle of the night. I was on our shared laptop, trying to upload a file for work when her email popped up in the corner. Notification, "It's booked. Friday. Same place." No subject. Just that. I wouldn't have thought twice if it hadn't come from a contact labeled accounts. No last name. No real context. And definitely not a real accountant. I clicked. It opened her inbox automatically. She never logged out. She didn't have to. She'd already assumed I wasn't that kind of husband. She thought I was safe, predictable, tamed. But there it was, a thread, weeks long, hidden in plain sight, buried under the name of a profession she knew I'd never bother with. Their messages were cold, direct, but packed with implication. "You're sure he'll be gone this time? Don't forget the spare key. Bring the bottle. No talking, just you. No talking, just you." I felt like I couldn't breathe. It was one thing to suspect, one thing to see pictures and tracks and half-truths. But it was another to read words like that, stripped of excuse, of ambiguity, of hope. She had lied so naturally for so long that even her fake stories had backup plans. And what hit me hardest wasn't just that she had done it. It was that she had planned it, repeatedly, with precision. And I had been making her coffee every morning, like an idiot. That Friday, I told her I'd be out late, helping a friend with a moving truck. She nodded without even looking up. "Okay, I'll probably stay in," she said, flipping through a magazine she didn't even care about. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't tense. She had done this before, many times. Enough to perfect the rhythm. Enough to forget how it might feel if I ever found out. So I gave her what she wanted. Silence. Space. Distance. I left the house just before sunset, drove 2 blocks away, parked behind a hardware store, and waited. And right on cue, just after the streetlights blinked on, she left. Black jacket, boots, her phone in hand, already texting, already smiling. She wasn't even trying to lie anymore. She wasn't scared. She didn't know. I followed, slowly, carefully, staying out of view, heart pounding like I was the one doing something wrong. I didn't know what I was looking for. I didn't know what I would do once I saw it. But I had to see. I had to witness it with my own eyes. Because if I didn't, the doubt would always find a way to sneak back in. She went to the same hotel, same side entrance, same elevator. She disappeared. And just like before, the building swallowed her whole. But this time I didn't leave. I waited. 2 hours. 3. 4. I watched every exit. I watched every car. She never came out. And somewhere around 1:30 in the morning, I realized something strange. I wasn't even angry. Not in the way you'd expect. I wasn't fuming or sobbing or about to break something. I just felt empty. Like a vessel that had already been poured out completely. Like a man who'd already left the marriage, just hadn't said it yet. And in that moment, I made a decision. Not to confront her. Not to scream. Not to beg for an explanation. But to leave. Quietly. And completely. Because the most devastating thing I could give her now was not a fight. It was freedom. The morning after she returned from that hotel, she walked through the front door like someone who'd just gone out for groceries. No guilt. No apology. No hesitation. Just a casual, half-hummed tune under her breath and a long sip of iced coffee like nothing in the world could touch her. She didn't even ask where I'd been the night before. Didn't ask if I'd eaten. Didn't notice that I had taken my toothbrush out of the bathroom drawer. That I had moved my wallet to my coat pocket. That my phone charger was no longer by the bed. She didn't notice because she didn't care. So I stopped pretending. I stopped reacting. I stopped trying to salvage the crumbling version of us she no longer respected. I started living like someone she no longer knew. I scheduled a private mailbox under a new name. I met with a lawyer. I made quiet copies of every document she never thought I'd touch. The lease, the car title, the joint bank statements. I opened new accounts. I closed old ones. I moved my emergency savings into an account she couldn't see. I didn't rage. I didn't threaten. I just vanished from her version of reality piece by piece. And she didn't even notice the pieces going missing. At dinner, I let her talk about work. I nodded when she joked about office gossip. I even chuckled at the part about Blaine being full of himself lately. She had no idea that the more she talked, the more I felt nothing. Absolutely nothing. I wasn't hurt anymore. I wasn't shocked. I was observing a performance, one I'd already read the script for. She wasn't even improvising anymore. It was robotic, rehearsed, hollow. And I realized something else. She had been counting on me to stay. Not because she loved me, but because I was predictable. Because I was the kind of man who begged her not to leave for a party and waited 3 days for her to come back without slamming the door when she did. She thought I'd just keep existing beside her, empty, compliant, grateful for crumbs. But I wasn't grateful anymore. I was calculating. I started sleeping with a packed bag under the bed. Just a duffel with the basics. Enough for one night or forever. My laptop, charger, some clothes, cash. She never noticed. She was too busy messaging her mystery man on silent mode. I caught glimpses of it reflected in her glasses, her eyes darting to the top of the screen, the corners of her mouth twitching when she read something sweet, something forbidden. She still smiled, just never at me. The only thing she ever said that week that stuck with me was, "You've been so chill lately. It's weird." And I smiled back and said, "Maybe I finally understand what you need." She looked confused for half a second, then moved on. She didn't realize that what I meant was, "You need me to leave you alone." And I would. Soon. Not in a fight. Not in a storm. But in silence. A silence so complete it would make the one she gave me after Blaine's party feel like a whisper in comparison. The day I left, she didn't even look up from her phone. I stood by the door for a full minute, watching her scroll, completely unaware that it would be the last time she ever saw me in that apartment. I wasn't carrying boxes. There was no dramatic exit. Just a small backpack, a folded note in my jacket pocket, and an old key I left on the kitchen table. My name was already gone from the lease. The bank account was closed. My number would be disconnected by nightfall. I walked out in silence. No goodbyes. No anger. Just the soft click of the door behind me, and the end of the version of myself that begged her to stay. She didn't text me that day, or the next. Maybe she thought I was sulking or off clearing my head. Maybe she assumed I'd come back with flowers or apologies, the way she always expected me to. But by the third day, she called. Then she called again. And again. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Then a second. Her voice cracked on the third one. I didn't listen to the fourth. By the time she messaged, "Can we talk?" I was already on a different coast, in a city she'd never wanted to visit, in a studio apartment that smelled like fresh paint and new beginnings. She asked, "Why would you leave without a word?" And I smiled, because it wasn't true. I had left one. The note was simple. No accusations. No blame. Just this. "You taught me that silence can be louder than words." I finally listened. And now I understand what peace sounds like. I never heard from her again after that. But I heard from myself, for the first time in years. I started writing again. I met people who knew nothing about the version of me that once curled up on a kitchen floor holding a phone that didn't ring. I hiked alone, drank cheap coffee, read in public parks, laughed at bad TV shows with no one to impress. And somewhere between doing absolutely nothing and slowly rebuilding everything, I realized I hadn't lost her. I had found myself. And in the end, that was the happiest ending I never thought I'd get.